Hello and welcome to the Wired and Wireless Networks Part 2 video. So in this clip we're going to talk about network hardware and the different devices needed if you want to create a network. We're going to talk about global networks and the internet, and we're also going to talk about virtual networks as well. So let's start off with the hardware then. If you want to create a local area network at home or at work, you're going to need some of the following devices. You're going to need a network interface controller, or an NIC. Now, in newer computers, that NIC is already built into the motherboard, but if it's less modern, you might still require a separate NIC that you connect up yourself. You're going to need network switches, you're going to need routers, you're going to need wireless access points, and you're going to need transmission media. So the NIC, the network interface card, plugs directly into the motherboard of a desktop computer, and it allows the computer to communicate with a network using either an Ethernet cable or some wireless technology. Each NIC includes a media access control, a MAC address, which is a unique identifier within the network. Okay, sometimes people get mixed up and they think that the IP address is the unique identifier. We'll get onto those later on, but the MAC address is the unique name for your device, and each device has got a different MAC address. And like I said before, in newer computers it's built into the motherboard. Network switches are a gateway between computers, allowing information to be passed between them and sent directly to a specified destination, the MAC address. The router is what connects the networks to other networks or to the internet. Okay, so you've got a router, you'll have a router at home. Sometimes people get a bit confused and they might think that the router is what connects the different devices together. So your mobile phone to the modem or your tablet. It's not. It's what connects your network to another network. In the case of a home network, it connects your home network to the internet. Wireless access points are the bit where your mobile devices, your wireless devices, are able to connect up to your router at home. And then finally we've got the transmission media, which is just a fancy way of saying whether you're using wires or wireless. So we've talked in class about wired networks using Ethernet cables. Usually, those Ethernet cables, like the ones that we use in school, for example. We've talked about wireless technology. Now we know wireless fidelity, Wi-Fi. That's using radio waves to transmit data from one device, from your device to a compatible router. And you've got the wireless networks. At the moment, that's 3G and 4G. We know in the coming years, or in fact very soon, we'll be talking about 5G. And that's another way of connecting devices to a network. So just to summarise that bit, you've got the hardware, the NIC, the network interface controller, you've got switches, which we talked about in class, we've got routers, wireless access points, and then the way that they connect up your transmission media. That transmission media could be a wire, an Ethernet cable, it could be wireless, Wi-Fi, or it could be a wireless network such as 3G or 4G. Okay. Obviously, the biggest example and the most famous example of network is the internet. And the internet utilises technologies that allows you to publish pages written in hypertext markup language, HTML, and those pages can be viewed on web browsers anywhere in the world. There's a system called the domain name server or service, which is the internet naming service. So rather than you having to remember, a string of numbers at 192.168.1.0.1, for example, it's much easier if you can just remember the name of the website, like www.google.com or www.edenboys.com. So, the domain name server is an internet naming service that links internet protocol, IP addresses, of a computer and a network to a text-based website address that is easy to remember. Okay, so instead of having to type in the numbers, the domain name server or service lets you type in words instead. Hosting means allowing users to access a specific computer, the host, via a network connection. So, there are lots of companies now that host web services for companies. Google do this. If you want to build a website, there are people that will host the website for you, and even if you're in some situations, they'll even provide a service where you can design and build the website on their website that they then host, and you might pay them for that. And then we've got cloud computing, and this is where this allows internet users not only just to remotely access files, but also to remotely run software as well. So, for example, Google have got their own version of Word that exists only online. That's an example of cloud computing. Apple do the same sort of thing. And what's good about this is that it allows you to work collaboratively more easily. You can work on the same document anywhere in the world. You can have multiple people working on the same document, working on different bits of it, and you're all working on one central file. And that's got a lot of advantages. You can even do the same sorts of things with games as well. And in fact, every time you're playing an online game, for example, Fortnite or Call of Duty or a racing game or something like that, you are in essence engaging in some cloud computing. And this is good. If we just go back to the software example for a minute, it means that the software is always up to date. It's not installed on your device, so you don't have to worry about keeping the software up to date yourself. You can access it as long as you've got an internet connection. You can access it anywhere in the world, and that's got a lot of advantages if you're working and you're travelling around from place to place, and you don't have you want your files to always be available. Finally, we've got the virtual network. This is all of that we've just talked about, but done virtually. So rather than having hardware, we use software and we create a virtual network. A bit like virtual memory, where the hard drive's used as an extension of RAM. In a virtual network, you can create a network electronically rather than physically, and that's got some advantages as well. We do it in school with Imperial, the software that controls the computers. Well, actually, no, that's a very bad example because we don't do that. That's a virtual server, not a virtual network. So just scrap that bit. Virtual LANs can be created within a large LAN to allow groups of specific users to share data without the need for additional physical servers and switches. So just to summarise this section, we've got the hardware, which we've talked about, and the different roles that those parts play. We've got global networks and the internet. We've talked about those. We've talked about the domain name server, replacing the need for you to remember a complex sequence of numbers to get to a website. We've talked a little bit about what hosting is, and we've talked a bit about cloud computing. And finally, a virtual network is using software rather than physical devices to create a network, within which you can then do the same sort of things you would do on a network. And that's the end of Wired and Wireless Networks 2. See you on the next clip.